government has had a troublesome track record around IT and information systems in general for a couple of systemic reasons. One is procurement. It's just been fiendishly difficult to procure great services and systems in the federal government. The second reason is security. We have a tremendous amount of responsibility to keep not just our own data, but the data of the public that we hold secure. That requires a tremendous amount of compliance work, which sometimes distracts from engineering. And the third reason is hiring, right? With the old permanent system of hiring civil servants, bringing new blood in as new technologies are developed, new methodologies are developed, and people with that experience into government has been really hard. So we've business process re-engineered all three of those while still staying in formal compliance with all the laws and regulations we need to. We've made those processes more nimble, more iterative, faster. Just in the issue of HR alone, we're coming in as 2-year term employees with an option for another 2 years. It doesn't say you couldn't get another term elsewhere in government or with a different position, but creating that specific time frame where you're here really inspires you to get something done and not get trapped in the organizational structure you're in. At the same time, we know that 18F can't be the only place where this is happening, right? So we have another division, 18F Consulting, which is all about teaching the other agencies to do it this way, right? Whether that means there needs to be an 18F even in 10 years, maybe, maybe not, right? But we want to make sure that all the agencies are armed with the same processes and ideas that we are.
There's that internal challenge, and I can accept it as a huge challenge, but there's also another challenge in terms of usability and the ability to deliver a service that actually answers a particular need or a need that happens to exist at a point in time, because obviously not all government services are needed all the time by citizens. To what extent are you engaging with people who will use the services out there, the general public, and make sure that they're fit for purpose?
Public participation is one of the most important founding principles of 18F, and to the degree that the public already has been and will continue to be not just engaged, but active contributors to our work is going to be to the maximum degree possible. We want to be a place where we're not just building for the public, we're building with them. And beyond that just being the right thing to do in a democracy, it's also the right thing to do if you want to build usable software, right? The biggest threat to software is you don't get it in the hands of users fast enough to find out where you're wrong so you can fix it, right? And everything about the government process, again, from procurement to cybersecurity, usually doesn't allow for that in the wild testing, right? So finding out how to do that safely, efficiently, effectively, but within government law has been a huge challenge, but we figured it out. And we're doing it aggressively across all of our products and services. And we're trying to figure out how to move from a pull system where, hey, if you can find us, then you can participate to the maximum degree possible. We need to go to where people are. We can't just be waiting for them to find us. So figuring out ways to do that better, right? And do that kind of outbound outreach is going to be a huge part of year 2 as well.
My final couple of questions really relate to some of the difficulties in terms of achieving what the objectives that you've set for yourselves. One of the criticisms that's been made of GDS is that yes, it's been successful, but it hasn't given itself much in the way of challenge. They've taken on some relatively easy challenges, putting in place social media policy, tidying up websites, putting in place sort of a common portal for accessing government information. But in terms of the really difficult transactional processes, they haven't really grappled. They haven't wrestled that greasy pig.
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate criticism, or do you believe that some of these really difficult transactional challenges can be overcome with an organisation like 18F?
We have kind of two sets of problem in the government. One part of the problem is getting people the information they need when they need it. That's the easier problem. And I think we've already made a lot of progress on that, and we're going to continue to make really quick progress on that. And when I look at the government digital service, they've also made tremendous progress on that side. So you have people getting information they need over here. Then you have people getting a benefit, right? That benefit might be liquid cash. It might be a voucher for healthcare services, right? It's something that's transactional, right? And by volume, in terms of where government civil servants are, in terms of what we spend our money on, this is the majority of what democratic government is, and that's a much more difficult problem to solve. One of the reasons why it's so difficult is the provisioning of any transactional service in government usually relies on multiple parts of government. When I think about the top 30 different transactional services in the US federal government, I can't think of a single one that is reliant on a single agency. So one of the reasons why it's so difficult to solve them is because our organizational structure no longer mirrors our products and services, right? So if we were a private corporation, we would have long reorged along these products and services, right? Instead, they're trapped between different silos, right? So trying to get quick wins to build the trust to have those silos work together, I think is part of the strategy. Still on our site, we say delivery is the strategy. It's actually not tongue-in-cheek, right? In order to tackle those bigger systemic issues, we need some quick wins first. But we're really quickly moving into those more difficult transactional problems. One of the places where we've made tremendous progress is the Immigration Department. I'm really excited about the work we're doing with the Veterans Administration, because that's one of those cross-cutting ones. Not only is the Veterans Administration one of the biggest federal agencies to deliver their service, probably by and large healthcare for veterans, they've got to talk to the Department of Defense, they've got to talk to HHS, they've got to talk to Social Security, they might have to talk to IRS, they have to talk to an almost infinite number of actual healthcare providers, right? So if we solve a lot of the problems there, we can find ways to white label things and deploy them across. I think that's the only way we're going to solve this, is to realize on the transactional side, most of these are not bespoke problems. And if we can figure out the ones that we can solve that hit our Pareto value, right? And we can deploy across 80% on the rest of government, that's going to be the biggest win over time. If we're going to be successful in that, we again need to grow significantly, right? So every time I do any sort of outreach, I'm trying to figure out ways to bring people in. So if anybody watching this video is interested in joining 18F, we have a site. Please come visit us. We'd love for you to join our effort.